It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is showtime, the Geno Jones Show. I know, you can read, right? You say, yo, G, dude, we ain't dumb, we're not illiterate. Well, maybe most of y'all, but I can't co-sign for some of you. Anyway, I digress. So I come to you live and in living color, Monday through Friday, unless it's a holiday or something, 6:30 right here on the East Coast, here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro. Shout out to the Zeta Queens watching me up in Charlotte, North Carolina, just across the border, doing their thing. In Chicago, it is 5:30. Out on the West Coast, 3:30, or a little after 3:30. Subscribe, share, screen grab, rip the video, like, and binge watch all my back episodes. The Geno Jones Show is brought to you by CM, like Mary, my mother's name. CM Transportation. If your business needs a transportation company that's dependable, reliable, and on time, not CP time. Shut up. Don't say it. CMTransportationLLC.net. CMTransportationLLC.net. Shout out to Carissa Carter. Carissa Carter, the CEO of CM Transportation. Juneteenth weekend. We always honor and celebrate and promote and show love to black-owned businesses. Carissa Carter, black woman, African-American woman-owned transportation company, one of the top transportation companies in America, and a huge supporter and a sponsor of the Geno Jones Show. So make sure you reach out to CM Transportation if your business needs a transportation company, your goods, your products, whatever it is, they can help. Don't deal with all them other transportation companies. Call CM Transportation and tell them Geno told you so. All right, it is Juneteenth weekend, Juneteenth day, June 19th. Juneteenth was Wednesday, but it's a week-long celebration all across America, especially here in the metro. In the Charleston, South Carolina metro, we have a big family reunion, a lot of events. Let me shout out the J19 team, Letitia Manigault and all of her team. Amazing, a week-long celebration, a week of events. Last night they had we call it J19 Juneteenth jazz concert. I think, what's the brother's name? It was Tom Braxton, and I can't remember the name of the band. But great. The brother's bad. Google him. I think it was Tom Braxton. But anyway, so shout out to the J19 team, Juneteenth week jazz celebration. There's a Juneteenth week gospel concert here in the metro on Saturday. There's a big June 19th family reunion. So it's a family reunion and cookout, and the SOS Band is going to be performing live at an amphitheater here. Hanahan is one of the surrounding communities here in the metro. That's going to be on Saturday, and then it's going to be a big awards gala at the International African American Museum, which I will be in attendance. And before that, we have a minor league baseball team, the Charleston River Dogs, and they're having a weekend to celebrate the Negro Baseball League. And shout out to Major League Baseball. I'm going to get into that in a second with my guest. So shout out to Charleston River Dogs. They're going to honor Larry Doby. Larry Doby was the second black man to play in the major leagues. He was the first black man to play in the American leagues. So he was signed, and he played for the Cleveland Indians 1 week after Jackie Robinson on April 15th, 1947, broke the color line, as they like to say, integrated baseball, when he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And a week later, Larry Doby played in the game for the Cleveland Indians. So shout out to that, and shout out to Major League Baseball. But I'm gonna get into, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna get into a conversation about, there was a conversation with one of the great baseball players. He was so great back in the late 70s, the brother had a candy bar. Talking about Reggie Jackson, Reginald Martinez Jackson. He was on on Fox. They had a pregame show with guys like Derek Jeter, legendary. You Yankees fans, that's your man. 5 world championships. Alex Rodriguez got one with A-Rod, and then all you Boston Red Sox fans, Big Papi, David Ortiz, repping the Dominican brothers, doing his thing, and they had a conversation with Reggie Jackson, and Reggie Jackson, well, we're going to talk about in a second. So, pinch hitting, guest starring for my #1 co-host. Now I got like 2 #1s, kind of like the Celtics, 2 #1s. I digress, and I'm a Lakers fan, but the Lakers, I'm not even going to talk about the Lakers, and oh my God, oh man, y'all make my head hurt. Jeannie Buss, LeBron, man, dude, I love you, Bron, but man, y'all making it hard. Rob Pelinka, I digress, but guest starring, pinch hitting from Miss Keela Carson, who is in the Carolinas, as a matter of fact, somewhere in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Ain't no telling where. Who knows? They may be on the interstate with all the other Zeta Queens. I have repping the Black Greeks, but Miss Keela Carson reps the sororities. This brother reps the fraternities. He is our legal genius, our legal brilliant mind, down for the culture and the cause, repping the one, the only, our legal expert, Mr. Shawn Mitchell. What's up, family? Happy Juneteenth week.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that, brother. Also, just to talk about my fraternity real quick, Alpha Phi Alpha, the first Black Greek fraternity, started at Cornell University in 1906. Shout outs to all the Divine Nine. I don't want to leave them out because they're good brothers and sisters in all those organizations. Absolutely. And also, you sent me back to my childhood talking about Reggie Jackson and Larry Doby. Now, I didn't watch Larry Doby play, but I talk about my grandfather all the time. That was his favorite ball player because really? Larry Doby played on the Cleveland Indians. And my grandfather was a big Cleveland Indian fan. Outside of being a Cubs fan, if you're born in Chicago, you're either a Cubs or a White Sox fan. And most people are Cubs fans. No shade on the Sox.
Stop. Now, since you went there, I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna really tell it, and I don't hold that against you because it's my mother who's watching me says teeth and tongue fall out and they share the same mouth. So now since Professor Mitchell decided to open this door, as you see his ass grinning because he know I'm about to hit him. Now, since we're gonna tell his story, we're gonna tell it right, and it's Juneteenth week. So the truth is, especially back in the day, back in the day, Black folks were rooting for the Chicago White Sox. Because the White Sox played on the South Side, and the way Chicago was racially segregated, if you were Black, you only could live basically on the South or West Side.
The best side.
You may have a. Let's see. It's Friday, so we're gonna do this because we always it's like a 30-minute comedy special with me and Key. So now me and you gonna do this and have some fun. So I will not hold it against Shawn. See, Shawn is an aberration from the West Side. See,
oh my goodness!
Don't let him fool you now.
I'm gonna let that ride, Inglewood. I'm gonna let that ride.
Well, you know how I can say that? Because I got relatives. I had plenty of cousins. I had some folks that was over there by Rockwell Garden. So now, if we go
But here's the thing about the South, the West Side. The bougie people live on the South Side. The West Side is the center of Black Power movement. Now you can't deny that. That's Fred Hampton. That's the Black Panthers. That's kind of all generated on the West Side. Maywood being one of the seats of
don't
Black intellectualism.
Because we had activists on the South Side. My mother was, that's a whole, so we could have that conversation on
Yes, you're right.
And now, everybody that was on the West Side, they on the South Side.
that is very much true because a lot of my family, they now live on the South Side, or a lot of Black folks that have been able to progress, they move out to the South suburbs,
or Atlanta,
or they're out here by me in Plainfield, Naperville, Bolingbrook.
Or they move to Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Yeah,
that's
so,
true.
but
Texas. I
anyway, so
cannot forget about all the brothers and sisters that have recently moved to Texas. Also,
I was
although
gonna
I'm
say Houston,
baffled
Dallas,
by that,
but I
but
don't know
it's a lot
why they
of
moved. They guys need to come back from Texas because Governor Greg Asshole, listen, he,
you mean Willie?
yeah. So it's like y'all have moved from left Chicago to go to an apartheid state, literally. But I digress. So let's talk about Reggie Jackson. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yep.
Did you get a chance to see the pregame show yesterday for the?
No,
Let me shout out.
but
Let me do
I
this.
saw.
Let's do this. Because I'm really hard on Major League Baseball because I love baseball. That was my first love. Willie Mays was my true, my even though Muhammad Ali became a hero, but my original hero outside of my grandfather, my sports hero was Willie Mays. I played baseball very well. It's a different story. Look, this ain't about me, but Willie Mays was my sports idol. I wore number 24, and I got a picture when I was 6. My mother said, well, my grandfather bought me a Giants cap. But Major League Baseball, and shout out to the commissioner, Rob Manfred, because he's really making an effort to make sure that he reaches out to the culture and the community, because there was a time when baseball was really dominated by your black stars. And Willie Mays at the top, right there with Hank Aaron. In Chicago, you had Ernie Banks and Billy Williams. On the South Side, we had guys like Carlos May, and we had Dick Allen, and I could go on and on and on. Frank Robinson, so many great players, and then you had Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds' dad. It's Tony Perez, Lee May. Man, don't get me started. We're not gonna turn this into Sports Center on ESPN, but I have to give Major League Baseball a lot of credit, and they had a special. They were honoring the Negro Leagues because now, Shawn, as you probably know,
Yes.
Major League Baseball, they have included the statistics from the Negro Leagues as part of the official Major League statistics and batting average and home run. So now Josh Gibson had the highest career batting average of any player in baseball. So.
Let me say this. I was also grew up in an era where baseball was king. My grandfather wasn't able to play baseball. So what did he do? From the time I was 3, I had a baseball glove and bat in my hand. I played baseball up until I was 26 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
What position did you play?
Everywhere. I mainly could catch, but I pitched in high school. I played everywhere. My grandfather taught me to be now what they call versatile, like Ohtani, who could pitch and play outfield. Well, back in the 80s, a lot of parents had the foresight with their kids to start doing that. And so I mainly played. I started out at third base because I had a great arm. And my grandfather wanted me to be a catcher because of my body build. It was kind of stocky as a kid. But then when I got to high school, I hit a growth spurt and hit almost 6'3". And so Coach Lid, my chemistry teacher, and just a great guy. He's a good friend even now. One day saw me throwing the ball from the catcher's position on my knees down the second base, right on point. He was like, have you ever tried to pitch? I was like, well, I used to do a little in Little League. So he got me out on the mound after practice, threw a little bit. And next thing I know, I'm thrown into the Proviso East Pirate baseball rotation. And so I would normally start, but there was times I came in, and I was a prolific hitter too. My grandfather taught me how to hit. He was an excellent baseball player, and because of racism, we never know how the original Felix Mitchell could have been greater than, Jackie Robinson. No disrespect to Jackie Robinson. I'm just speaking from the standpoint of my grandfather. And another thing, you brought up Willie Mays. Well, my grandfather, when we were picking out uniform numbers, I didn't know what number I wanted. I wound up playing with 14. Why 14? 14 was Willie Mays' original number. He later, in 1953, I think when he's called up, switches to 24.
Okay.
Because if I remember right, on the Giants, 14 wasn't available. It was another star player that had 14. So he
with
switches
the New York Giants.
20.
Now here is a fun fact. Willie Mays. Now I don't know about the 14, but I do know Willie Mays in the major leagues virtually always wore 24.
Yes,
But
he did.
when he was so he played with the Birmingham Black Barons. That was a
Yes.
Negro League team. But
Right.
I was deciding where I was going to give you a trivia question, but I'm not going to do that. But Willie Mays wore number 8 with the Birmingham Black Barons.
Yes, he did.
Right. And then he wound up wearing number 24. So I thought you were going to say 14 for Ernie Banks. The only number I ever wore was number 24. And the only position I ever played was center field. But
if I remember right, 14 was also worn by another hero of mine. I think David Winfield wore it at some point when he was on the Yankees. I've never been a big Yankees fan, but what I always liked Reggie Jackson. A lot of the Yankee stars I like, but I'm not anti-Yankee either. When you're from Chicago, you always feel like when it comes to sports, you're the overlooked stepbrothers unless you're the Bulls of the 90s, the 85 Bears.
We got a World Series in 2006. Y'all got one about what,
2016? 16.
16, yeah. So we got, and now the White Sox and the Cubs are in last place. That's a whole nother conversation.
Well, we're not in last place as of what I just saw earlier today.
Oh, y'all just got out of last place. Okay.
Well, we weren't in last place that long. I mean, I understand sometimes, Sox fans' memories get messed up.
No, not at all.
Losing 14 in a row this year, and then having the owner that you have who's ruining both the Sox and the Bulls.
So funny. Let's talk about the owners. We have one inept owner and one racist owner. So I don't know. I don't talk about the Ricketts.
The Ricketts. Yeah,
you can't clean it.
Yeah, I can't. And the reason I wouldn't say racist, what I would say is Republican owners. Because the Ricketts have invested in black baseball here in the city, so I can't take that away.
Tax write-off. Yeah, and since you talk about who the Ricketts have invested or donated money to, if you don't stop there,
the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign. Yeah, okay. The brother is the governor of Nebraska. I mean, there's a whole lot wrong with the Ricketts.
Let me say this. I will bet you dinner at your favorite. That's right, because, unfortunately, his taste buds are warped on the west side because Harold's is the chicken, but we all agree on Garrett's. So
we do agree on Garrett's, but I would be remiss if I didn't say Uncle Remus, y'all. If you come to Chicago, you can do your own test, folks. Listen, sometimes the franchise that's the loudest, Harold's, isn't necessarily the best, like Uncle Remus. I'm just going to put that out there for y'all.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to shout out, and I don't even know who owns the Harold's Chicken right across the street from the 630 building for Columbia College, Chicago. And I was there for Allie's graduation and fashion shows, and I was hungry, and it was late Thursday night because she had the two fashion shows. And I walked across the street to Harold's. It wasn't even there back in the day, like in the 80s and 90s. But man, that was like some of the best. That was like as good as the Harold's that used to be on 53rd and Kenwood back in the day.
Can we agree that the best black pizzeria is Italian Fiesta? Is that enough room for us?
I don't mess with pizza, so you could have that.
But that's a black-owned pizzeria. It's on the South Side. Italian Fiesta is one of the best black-owned pizzerias
I've ever touched my lips. So, listen, let's go. I want to go back. Let's go back to Reggie Jackson.
That's like, you're from Chicago. That's like a black person saying, I don't like fried chicken.
Oh, I eat catfish, okay? And black folks, if you were black in Chicago back in the day, your folks they were frying some catfish and probably spaghetti on Fridays.
And on the west side, they had the fish market that they literally brought up a truck full of catfish in water. You could see through the glass on the truck on the west side, and the guy would pull the truck up to the fish market, and you see them unloading the fishes. See, I'm telling you something. This is why I always mess with my South Side friends, because the West Side never gave up its connection to Mississippi and Alabama. How our elitist friends on the South Side.
Well, the truth is, the folks on the South Side, they never gave them up. We just didn't let it show in public. And it wasn't so much Mississippi and Alabama. it was definitely Mississippi, but it was Mississippi primarily and Arkansas, because that was I-55 cut right through.
57, yeah.
Yeah, 57
Yeah.
ends just before you get to Memphis, and then I-55, you go straight. And Memphis is on the southwest corner of Tennessee, and literally, like downtown, there's a bridge. You cross the bridge, you're in Arkansas. You got to drive through Arkansas to get to Memphis. I digress.
You're right.
But let's talk about Reggie, man. Reggie Jackson. Did you see the pregame show last night?
No, but I know he's been doing media lately, and I saw a documentary. If you guys haven't seen the documentary about Reggie Jackson, you should check it out.
So I can tell you didn't see it, because trust me, if you would have seen it, what he said last night. So it was a pregame show, and Reggie was on with Alex Rodriguez, who played with the Yankees, Derek Jeter, who was the captain of the Yankees and won 5, World Series, and my man Big Papi, that used to play with the Boston Red Sox, David Ortiz.
Yes, Big Papi.
So Shawn, as a matter of fact, it's all over Twitter, and shout out to Jamel, because Jamel is people who show up on my timeline. But so Alex Rodriguez leans over and he asks Reggie about, how does he feel coming back? Because actually Reggie Jackson played in Rickwood Field in the late 60s. With
minor league baseball.
Minor league team. It was in Kansas City.
Right.
Man, the trauma that Reggie Jackson has been sitting on for 60 years, it came flowing out like Lake Michigan. And I'm not gonna edit what he says. I'm gonna say it exactly the way he said it for impact. And I'm so glad that Reggie said it. So Reggie said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said, "A-Rod, people ask me today, and it's hard. I wouldn't, I didn't overcome," because somebody said, "Well, did you come out on top, playing, in Birmingham and Alabama, and how racist?" And he was like, "No, I didn't come out on top, and I would never do it again." And then he talked about a couple experiences. He said, when the team went to a hotel, that the people in the hotel said, "That nigga can't stay here." When they went to a restaurant, they told his managers and all the other white teammates, "That nigga can't eat here." He was he said he stayed with a teammate, one of his teammates, Joe, I think his wife's name is Sharon Rudy. I remember Joe Rudy. They stayed in an apartment. Reggie said he stayed there maybe a little over a week or whatever. And because nobody would let Reggie Jackson get an apartment. It was so bad the Klan came to the apartment complex and told Joe Rudy and his wife that they would burn the entire complex down if that nigga didn't get out. And Reggie did not edit anything. And the look on between Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter and David Ortiz, and even the host of the show was like, and Reggie just went on and he just talked about how because in '63 nobody played, no teams that had black players. As a matter of fact, he said they took baseball out of Rickwood Stadium because of the 11th Street church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama. And Reggie referenced those 4 babies. The oldest was only 14 that were murdered by and then he talked about how Life magazine went and interviewed these guys, the Ku Klux Klan members that killed these 4 black babies, and he said they treated them like they were celebrities or like they were like heroes or something. I'm paraphrasing, and he said, and this is paraphrasing, in spite of all the racism, or even with that, he said he never would have survived if it wasn't for his white friends, his teammates, his manager, they went to Charlie Finley had the owner has like a resort or something. And so they go, Charlie Finley has a celebration for the team. Now, Charlie Finley owns the damn place. And the people are telling Charlie Finley that nigga can't be here. And I'm using
and that was the owner of the Oakland. He owned the Oakland Raiders.
He owned the Oakland A's. So Charlie
Right.
Finley said, okay, none of us are going to eat here, and I will take you, we'll find a diner and eat hamburgers where we're welcome. And they backed down and let Reggie Jackson stay there.
Right.
So it was powerful. And I'm not doing it justice because there were a couple moments to where Reggie's voice cracked.
Yeah.
And he was fighting, holding back tears. You could see his body language in his eyes. But just remembering that, Shawn, 60 years later, the trauma and the pain, and it blew everybody away.
Right.
So it was real powerful. So if I was looking for it on YouTube, it's probably here somewhere, but I know it's all over X and well, it's on a lot of platforms now. So shout out to Reggie Jackson, who was just, honest about it. He was like, listen, this trauma, people, and now people don't want the history taught and they want to ban the books, but he was living history and to speak about the pain and to feel the pain and to see the pain in one of the greatest baseball players, one of the strongest baseball players who hit some of the longest home runs in baseball history, how that still, it hurt him and almost broke him. It was powerful, Shawn. You got to check it out.
Definitely. I just know that Reggie Jackson played with a lot of anger. And when you read and know about his story, you understand why he played with a lot of anger. What I liked about Reggie Jackson when I was growing up was he was one of the first athletes outside of Muhammad Ali that spoke to the media with some sense of authority and pride about himself. He didn't let reporters or media people get away with talking down to him, questioning his work ethic, questioning the decisions he made. He also challenged one of the first players that I saw. I'm not saying he was the first to do it, but challenged the ownership establishment about pay for Major League Baseball. If you know anything about baseball and you know about the Yankees, and there's a lot of Yankees fans in your listening audience, is that George Steinbrenner pretty much, when he took over the Yankees, did what he wanted to do, but not to Reggie Jackson.
No.
And there's other players that are inspired in that group. I think that when it comes to baseball, history follows kind of the history and race relations within the United States.
Yes.
And that's what makes baseball always this interesting sport, because if you follow baseball, you can kind of get a mirror into what's happening outside of baseball.
It was a microcosm for society, what was happening outside of the stadiums and ballparks.
Yes. One of the greatest, quote unquote, greatest baseball players ever was one of the most racist people on the planet, Ty Cobb. And so
let's talk about, since you went there, Shawn, let me just jump in. Let's talk about the commissioner at that time in the 30s, late 20s, a guy named Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
Yes,
who was quoted publicly as saying, "We'll never let niggas play in the major league."
Right.
Now he was the commissioner. So credit to baseball, they have gone from one of the most racist commissioners, racist, dirty players like Ty Cobb, to now Rob Manfred, who's doing everything to attract, and now they're beginning to really invest and pour money in programs. They partnered up with a lot of the retired contemporary black baseball players from like the 80s, the 90s. You talked about the Yankees, your man CC Sabathia. They had a big softball celebrity game. And Barry Bonds was there. Ken Griffey was there. Like all these guys, it was,
Another travesty that Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, because baseball has always had different things outside of the sport whether it was alcohol during Babe Ruth's time, and they gambled back then on baseball games. Nobody talks about it. Whether it was amphetamines during the
Yeah, in
70s
the
and
60s,
80s, because
really in the 60s. It was real bad in the 50s and 60s.
because of the travel, restriction. We're only like 50 years into 60 years into air travel being what we see it as now, that everybody gets on a plane. But in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, these teams didn't have their own jets. They were on buses and trains. And so the travel, and you're playing, and they played less games, but they played, like, on a week, they probably played 2 double headers.
Yes.
And so the scheduling and all
Especially
those
the
different,
Negro League.
yeah, and then which brings me to that. While integration was great, the Negro Leagues was a multi-million-dollar industry at the time. You had I think it was 6 black men and 1 black female that
Actually, had
owned.
3 black women owners.
Yeah, I knew. The early owner that I'm thinking about is the sister that owned. I think it was the Cleveland team. But these black businessmen and women who owned Negro League teams were quite prosperous. And the Negro Leagues, when you have the integration of baseball, the Negro Leagues just kind of disappear. And that is the result of what happened during integration. And I know we look at it now like, well, everybody's playing together, but my grandparents, and I'm sure your grandparents, my grandfather talked about some of the seeing Satchel Paige before he played for the Cleveland Indians, and when he was in his prime, and seeing Gibson hit home runs in Wrigley Field that were out over 2 blocks over Waveland Avenue, if you're familiar
on the
with
L tracks, where I saw Willie
right.
McCovey hit a home run. I'll never forget. I was at the game, and the damn ball bounced on the Addison platform.
Right. So their Major League Baseball, hats off to them by integrating the numbers from the Negro Leagues into the sport.
Yeah.
And I think the next step, like I said, each era has these different little caveats to them. Who knows what this current era's caveat is going to be? Because again, baseball mirrors what's going on in society. Yeah. And hats off to Reggie Jackson, because now Reggie Jackson is probably approaching 80 years old. And he's all, even when I saw him on the documentary, he still had that same fire that, even though I wasn't a Yankee fan, I cheered for Reggie Jackson. Even when I wasn't an Angels fan, I cheered because it's Reggie Jackson. He had a candy bar. First black man ever with a candy bar.
Reggie. Yep. When he was the Yankees.
When he was at the Yankees. So I've always been a fan. And if anybody's going to speak, and also in similar fashion, shout out to Kareem, because Kareem and Reggie are mirrors in 2 different sports. Kareem speaks out even now about things that have went on, and he spoke out while he played basketball. But he's always been very pro-black.
It's funny you say that, Shawn, but to me, who really had the energy, and I would have to say maybe energy, Reggie may have kind of got the energy from him, but after seeing Reggie speak last night, even though this athlete I'm about to name may have had an influence, a lot of it was just trauma, and he refused. He was just that kind of dude. He was just like you and I, we'd have been like Josh Gibson and Oscar Charles. We'd have never made it, but since you talked about Reggie, I got to tell you, and it's funny, at the very end of his soliloquy, he said, thank God for all my white friends and John McNamara, the manager, and Sal Bando and all the other guys. He said, because I was physically violent, and I would have beat somebody's ass, and I'd have been hanging in an oak tree. That's what he literally said.
Right. He always had that. And then the other thing is, baseball is set up the way it is now because of another black man. When I'm talking salaries and players' rights, Kurt Floyd with
the St. Louis Cardinals.
He refused to accept the trade. People don't realize that when you and I are born in the early 70s, baseball players don't have agency over their career. Owners trade and move baseball players like they were indentured servants and modern slaves.
Like baseball cards that we used to trade as kids.
Right, exactly. And so, if it wasn't for Kurt Floyd actually, going up against baseball, and even though he didn't win the way he wanted to win, it changed the structure of how these athletes' contracts are negotiated. Same thing with other
it opened the
sports.
door, and a couple years after Kurt Floyd's decision, I think it was 72, you may know it better than me, because it went all the way to the Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court. Then in I think around 77, where baseball officially had free agency, where your contract was up, and that's how Reggie Jackson wound up going to the Yankees in 77. I think it may have been before. It may have been maybe 73, but I can remember some players. There was a couple white players. I think one that played for the Angels, Andy Messersmith, but it was some guys that they were like the first players to take advantage of free agency.
And they used to, each year they used to have to negotiate their contract.
Yes.
So the off season you get finished playing in, October.
You had to get a job, dude.
Yeah, and a lot of the ball players did other things.
The star players.
And a couple of them own bars and restaurants.
Right. Let me ask you. It's funny that actually, Willie Mays actually lived on the South Side. Did you know that? Yep.
Yes.
Almost kind of around Chatham over there.
Yeah.
But I don't. Even a lot of the superstars, I don't know if Ernie did. You might know this, but even like the superstar players, they would get jobs. Like they would have during the off season, like car salesmen. They would be selling cars, and they'd have to get a regular job.
Yeah, because the average player back then was making something like $25,000, which
they make that
my grandfather worked at GM, and he was making more than union jobs were paying more than baseball players.
Yeah. And now they make $25,000 in about 30 seconds.
Right. And I think the next hurdle for professional athletes is women's professional athletes, making sure that the compensation and the facilities and the travel and all these things, we're talking about baseball and what was going on with male athletes in the, 50s, 60s, 70s. Well, let's bring it full forward with the NBA players. They're just now getting chartered planes. So can you imagine, these professional women's athletes, and I will say it and I'll say it again, women's basketball fundamentally is much more difficult than men's basketball, just because of the fierce competitive. I know there are people watching and say, well, they can't do this, they can't do this. No, I'm talking about basketball, fundamental.
It's a different game.
Basketball. It's a different game. Those women play deep
below the rim. Yes,
and they play defense. They run plays. They're doing picks.
Well, not all of them, because Caitlin Clark don't play defense, but that's a whole nother story. But it's just it is. It's unfair to try to compare them because it's just a different game.
But the pay and the money that's being generated, hopefully, there is a movement within the women's game to make sure that they're receiving a fair share and being compensated. For instance, I think one of the players just drafted, I didn't notice, they make like $78,000 a year. And I'm going like, there's guys in the NBA that are making $78,000 a game.
Yeah. Right.
Some of them half a game, like LeBron, maybe even per quarter.
Yeah.
I mean,
per
so
minute. You're right.
I think that as the women's games grow and they get in bigger arenas and they're cutting TV deals, we'll see that income rise.
Well, let's be honest though, Shawn. Let's since you went there, let's keep it 1,000. The majority of the teams in the WNBA are owned by NBA governors, because they don't use the word owners, they're governors. So in these teams, it's not like they don't have the money. Now, the excuse they were giving was, well, the women's game doesn't generate the revenue. Okay, maybe not, but then it was a catch-22 because the TV networks didn't pay attention to the women's game like they are now. Now you have a young lady who is very talented, but let's be honest, she is like the next great white female hope. Let's go back to 79. Let's go back to the NBA when they were calling the NBA didn't stand for national. You know, the racists was calling it the N-word Basketball Association, and it was a lot of, you know, cocaine was kind of getting prevalent. And the NBA finals back in the day, I think in 79, the year that Magic played Bird in college, they played in the championship game, and Magic and Greg Kelser beat the brakes off Larry Bird's ass. And a brother from Chicago that went to Inglewood High School, Carl Nix, beat the brakes off Indiana State. The NBA finals, they were on tape delay.
Yeah.
So the only point I'm trying to make is that if the owners and their media partners had wanted, because listen, you had, I mean, I still argue that Cheryl Miller probably could have played, she could have played guard. Now, physically, you know, she would have been dominated, but she would have been given it to some folks. Because Cheryl Miller was the truth. Nancy Lieberman, Teresa Weatherspoon, who's the coach of the Chicago Sky, Lynette Woodard, you know, even before Pam and Paula McGee, the McGee twins that played in Southern Cal. So they were always really talented women, but for a whole lot of reasons, you had the misogyny and sexism and the racism, because it was still, you know, the majority of the stars were black, but there was a significant number of white female basketball players, just like it is now. But you know, the racists and the misogynists. So the narrative now is the WNBA is just a bunch of black lesbians. Okay.
That we know who's pushing the narrative. The same narrative is the same group that's behind the 34 indicted and B6. So I mean, and when you know what that is, you can look at that and just shake your head and move on. Let me say this: the game, the sporting arena as a whole, until we can get more ownership, more control, is kind of in this little area of a little bit of a funk where, you know, some of us, you know, had higher expectations to where sports would be right now, and others are happy with athletes shutting up and just playing, shut up and dribble, or shut up and hit, or set up and run. You know, they don't really want it, the social commentary. I think that no matter what you do, who you are, when there's things going on in society that have effect on people, you should speak out. Will can it affect your money and your bottom line? Yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And that's why we can look at people like Reggie Jackson or Muhammad Ali, and they're the gold standard of the athlete that also is not afraid to speak out. And you can challenge some of the athletes now. They've got all these people around them, from an agent to a PR person to investment advisor. And so these people are making decisions, not necessarily what's best for the people or the culture, but what's best for their pocket, like politicians do.
Let me just interject, jump in and say this in all fairness, because you know and I know we got nephews and nieces. These millennials and Gen Z, no, they got a whole different energy. They ain't shutting up. You ain't gonna call them no N-word or no boy, no B. They'll tell you what you're not gonna do, you know, and they'll tell you you could have this team and kiss my ass, and they're not gonna be locked in. They're not gonna be working for no company for 40, 50 years and get no gold watch. They're gonna form their own company. But in all fairness, I have to really, from LeBron, I have to give LeBron big props. But guys like LeBron, and when Carmelo was in the league, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, a lot of these cats really spoke out, especially after, it really started with Trayvon Martin, because that's when LeBron was in Miami, him and Dwayne Wade. But what happened, what they forced the NBA, and really, I gotta be real, Shawn, you know who really triggered that social justice movement behind George Floyd? It was not the NBA, but the brothers were all in. It was the WNBA.
Yeah, that's true.
because
You're right.
I know you know this, but let's for our audience. So I can't even think of this funny looking heifer's name that looked like an Afghan hound. She was her husband was like a billionaire, so she was running for Senate against Reverend Warnock.
Yeah, I can't
And
think of her name either, but I know what you're
and she
talking about.
said some racist shit, and the women. Now here's the part, the killer part. She owned part of the team. They was like, we don't give a damn. They went and got T-shirts that said "Vote Warnock."
Yeah,
So,
I remember that. I can't think of the lady's name,
yeah, I
but
can't either.
we know again, just another version of B6. It doesn't matter whether she was running for Senate or running for a dog catcher in a town. They seem to line up lockstep. That
Was her
particular group.
last name Leffler or something?
It might have been.
It started with
whatever
a K.
it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, she's not in the Senate.
Thank God.
Warnock.
Senator Warnock is there.
Yeah,
so I had to really credit the women were really out front in the lead. Not too different than the way the civil rights movement was. I mean, we saw Dr. King in the front and Ralph Abernathy, but I mean, you know, it wasn't just Rosa
but then you had
Parks,
Aretha,
Diane,
and you had Harry Belafonte, you had all these different Black actors, Sidney Poitier, or whether they were there, they were sending money, they were doing things to participate,
Right.
and so you know that's similar
Shawn,
now.
since we talking about Black women in that movement that was right there, really even leading in a lot of ways. Shout out to Queen, rest in peace, Aretha Franklin. Shout out the greatest gospel voice ever, Mahalia Jackson.
She was right there.
Mahalia was straight bankrolling like Harry Belafonte because Mahalia Jackson was at the peak of her powers in the 60s. And Aretha Franklin, along with Harry Belafonte, they would all, when they would march in the South, all of them wound up in jail. They'd wire the money and get everybody out of jail.
And you can't leave out people like James Brown. Brown was very active in the civil rights movement. I mean, a host of conscious black artists and musicians and actors and different things like that. So and a lot of the young people now, they build off that. They recognize that, and they're able to build and create these networks. And we live in a different era, and you don't have to go out in the street, although you should be in the street. You can do a lot through social media and the different platforms that you can use. And then there are Black people creating their own platforms that so if we invest in, we don't have to Swizz
Beats and Timberland, but hey.
Yes, it's shade to Swizz Beats and Timberland because I think they need to be called out. They need to be called out because why would you go and present that to a person that doesn't care about the culture? You're just a money opportunity for him. It's similar to, you have to call out Black folks that go take a meeting with Donald Trump. What's the purpose?
Oh, no, you're right.
You have to call out the brother with the church. I'm not going to even say the church's name because I know it, because I'm not going to give him any free publicity. Yeah, but people like that, you have to call out where it's a Black church and there's 15 Black folks in there. And I've been to Black churches all my life. I've never seen a Black church where I could sit in the congregation with my hat on. I've been to church for Vacation Bible School, and we're gonna go outside to play softball, and we got to take our hat off. And so that coon allowed them white folks, them Trumpanzees, to come into his church with hats on. And that tells you a lot. Now, he's lucky I don't work for the tax people, because my next check is, let's check your tax status of that church. Let me see what's going on, because I know I heard political speak from the pulpit in that church. Well, but that's just me.
Orange Hitler rented out the church. The members of the church weren't in there. These were people who were bussed in, drove in, flew in.
If you're unemployed, Trump is telling one truth. He is helping unemployed people by paying you to attend his rallies. So if you're looking for extra scratch, you can pick up that extra scratch by attending a Trump rally, and pick up similar to a B actor fee. I think it's something like $50, $75. Some of them in places where there are not that many Black folks, you probably get a couple of $100. Just ask
Listen,
the coon that runs around Blacks for Trump. I'm sure he's super paid. By the way, well, I'm not going to get into that because I don't have nothing against the group. I just don't like him. He's in a religious group that is fringy. And if I mention that group's name, everybody will know what it is. And I'm not going to do that to the group because I don't think the members of the group deserve that. He's
you said, folks got to be called out. Tell the truth, shame the devil.
Well, I don't know which sect he's in, but I believe he's in the Israelites, the Black group. That,
okay,
he is a member. Their leader has been locked up for all kinds of crimes, claimed that he tried to assassinate somebody, money embezzlement, everything. Well, it's amazing that the group of people that Trump chooses to surround himself with, and the brother that you see that say Blacks for Trump, that travels all around and everything, he's been with him from day one, is a member of that and defended the guy who's been accused of murdering plotting to murder people who left the group. And so I'm not making that up. That's information out there for you to look at.
No, you're right.
And I'm just curious if President Barack Obama had an association with that person, it'd have been all hell. I just try to always understand why everything Trump is what they said Obama was to be as president, Trump has been. And so it's kind of baffling.
Right. Well, just stop right. I just want to say, stop right there since you mentioned President Obama. Listen, Reverend Wright told no lies, but they made try to turn Reverend Wright to like he was like Black Hitler. And they tried to hang that around Obama's neck to where he had to come out and give this speech about, the history of race. So we know what the cult would have done because they did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the real bad situation that we're entering in, Louisiana's governor passed a law which will probably, although with this court, I don't know,
the ACU,
it should be struck down.
ACLU,
it should be struck down. It should be removed. And what I find amazing is these same evangelicals don't want the government to tell them to take a vaccine or tell them what books to read, but they want the government.
She got to have a baby if she's been raped.
Right, but they want the government to promote religion
to tell you what God you could pray to,
and what God you should pray to, and how to pray to whatever God you need to pray to, and that is a violation in itself. I mean, me as a parent, I would never want the school to play a part in my child's and our religious doctrines, even if I agree. I don't think that's the school's function. The school's function is educate. Now, here in Louisiana, they rank 47th in the nation in education. And these same Christian fundies don't want the schools to give kids free lunches, but you want them to learn about the 10 Commandments.
Right. So
these kids can't read and write.
Yep.
But you want them to learn about the 10 Commandments.
Because, Shawn, we'll explain to everybody. So the governor got a law passed through the Louisiana House and Senate. So now it is by law, every public school at every level is required. So I guess even the state colleges too, right? They're required.
Yeah, probably most likely.
Now, help me out, Shawn, are they required to have the 10 Commandments posted in every classroom?
From what I understand, and I read, it's every classroom. Now the government, the Supreme Court has upheld municipalities putting memorials up with the 10 Commandments. That's a little bit different than putting it in the classroom and almost making it in the same level as the flag. We've already had Supreme Court decisions about you can't force kids to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you've ever known anybody that is a Jehovah's Witness and went to school with them, they don't participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember growing up when I was a kid, every morning we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and then that stopped probably around just before high school.
Yeah, I remember.
Because it was something that a court case put an end to that. Because people talk about indoctrination. If you have a kid and you're in the most Christian household, do you trust the public school to teach your kids that same Christian value? And even if they are, what kind of Christianity are they teaching them?
You took the
If
words
you're
right
a Catholic,
out of my mouth, Shawn.
are you a Baptist? Are you
we a white Christian
Are you Kajik?
nationalist?
Right. What? And that is why, because this opens up the other thing. If we're going to have the 10 Commandments, and by the way, the governor is a liar. The 10 Commandments are not the first law. Harambe, who was before the 10 Commandments, had Steelies, was the first, quote unquote, modern group of people to document laws on a written format. And by the way, if you go look at the Steely for Harambe, they kind of mirror what's on the 10 Commandments. I don't want to get into religious doctrine because I just don't do that. I
love educating it, so explain.
But I'm just saying
a little more briefly in detail about what the Harambe is.
Harambe was this ruler before Jesus Christ comes along, before Moses, and he's in Mesopotamia, and the people were unruly. So what did he do? He put the laws down as written word, and they put them on steelies. There's a steely would look like a small version of the monument. A lot of them look like the Washington Monument, but they're small, and they have the laws going down all sides, what the laws is, what the rules were. And so the 10 Commandments is a play off that. The other thing is, a lot of things that we take as just being Christian, they're these collection of different things that mankind had done, different stories mankind had told over the years. I'm not questioning, and so don't text me or email me. I'm not getting into a religious conversation. I'm simply putting a facts to that. When you hear a governor say, this is man's original law, what man's original law? Who? Because this same original law was the one that had my people in chains, that told my people that they gave the white men who wrote the Constitution the great idea that we're 3/5 of a man. They say that they were endowed by this power by the Creator. Well, if you believe in God and you believe God is all powerful, you cannot believe that God would condone some of the behavior that's been happening, especially to people of color, women, and poor people. See what I did right there? I counted everybody, because there's poor white folks, so you got included.
There are more poor
women,
white people in America than there is any other.
Than the Black population.
Right. And Shawn, if you don't mind, let me put it. I want to put a cherry on top of this Christian Sunday, and I've said it on the show many times. And to the governor, whatever your name is, Governor MAGA in Louisiana, y'all do understand that this Christianity that we practice in all of its various forms, and since you all identify now as white Christian nationalists, you do understand that America is practicing a remixed version of Christianity. Because if you really want to understand Christianity, you got to go back to Ethiopia and the Coptic. Just Google Coptic Christians in origins Ethiopia. That's all. I ain't a preacher, but just
or Google the Council of Nicaea,
yes,
and you'll understand how the modern concept of Christian comes about. Why there are several books that were left out of Christianity, the current Bible. And then you'll start to dig deeper, and you'll realize that what the King James version of the Bible is really about. And again, I'm not dismissing Christianity. I grew up, I've grown up in a Christian family. I've been baptized. I
Most
understand
folks in
all those
Chicago
things.
on the south and west side back in the,
Yeah,
you
so
went to
I,
a little storefront before these mega churches. It was a little
mm-hmm,
storefront church that was maybe
mm-hmm,
like a little supermarket or whatever that they converted
mm-hmm,
into a little
mm-hmm,
church.
mm-hmm. I was a little bit more bougie than that. I went to a traditional big black church on the west side, Lawndale Missionary Baptist Church, this huge church on Independence. I mean, you know, on the west side. I'm just saying, I grew
Well,
up in
damn, who
Broadview
knew?
Baptist Church.
Bougie on the west side. Well, see, Maywood, Maywood, they were the bougie Negroes compared to the brothers that was in K-Town over there on Kedzie and Madison. That's a whole different guy.
I knew you was going. I knew you was going. You was going to go there. Yeah. And I'm glad you gave me an opening. So I'm gonna say this. My Maywood people gonna love this. Dalton, Harvey, Thornwood. How y'all used to hate on Maywood? Maywood's still rocking, baby. We still in charge. It's looking good. Now my generation is taking over Maywood, and they cleaning it up, and they fixing it up, and they investing in Maywood. So Maywood is back, baby.
Well, y'all
Shout out
lucky that y'all was telling everybody that was in K-Town and over there on Lake and Cicero, y'all need to go move on the south side.
They all of them went out to Dalton.
I know the move now.
Yeah, they all went out to Dalton and what is that? Harvey and Harvey.
Well, so now,
I had a car accident in Harvey, and that was the worst experience I had. The police never came. I had to go through drama with the person because Harvey is, you know, I think at some point, and maybe this is a show you like to do, we as Black folks have to start holding our local political leaders responsible. We sometimes let them get away with things that in the long term are very damaging.
Culture in the community.
Yeah, Dalton right now is going through it. Harvey has went through it, and you're seeing what happens. You're also seeing what happens when county assessors count people out of their homes. You know, the South suburbs are some of the most affluent Black suburbs in the country.
Tinley Park.
But the Cook County assessor is strategically taxing Black people out of their homes. How does a person in a place like Hickory Hills, you guys aren't really familiar, but Hickory Hills is a pretty nice neighborhood, okay? And their tax rates had barely increased at like 0.5% per year. But a person living in Matson, Illinois, at one point was a very affluent, big homes. You can go to Matson, Illinois right now, Google it, look it up, even with the inflation, and find a house, a 6-bedroom house, 3 baths for $200,000. But guess what? Your tax bill on top of that home every year is $18,000.
What?
$22,000. That is the Cook County tax assessor, yes, taxing people out of their home. See, these people who manipulate the powers and levers of government have all types of way to keep segregation and different things in place. Your county assessor has power more so than the mayor because he is doing the tax assessment on all property. All property.
Or she. So
he or she.
Wasn't the last Cook County assessor, was it a woman?
I think the new one is. I think before, I can't think of the gentleman's name because I choose, as much as I love Chicago, I choose to live outside of Cook County for a whole bunch of reasons that it'd take a 3-hour show to talk about. I choose not to live in Cook County because I don't like how Cook County is ran and operated. I don't like the tax system in Cook County. Not that Will County is a little better, but not so much. You know, DuPage, Kane, all these counties. The problem is that they put the tax on the backs of the working people. Yeah. Like for instance, I live in Will County, not too far from me. Recently, they decided we're going to build a whole bunch of warehouses. And oh, by the way, there's an incentive to put your warehouse that they built over almost a year, which is still empty. You guys aren't going to be assessed as high taxes. So, but my taxes keep going up. That's why we're selling our home to look for a home, find another home in a cheaper tax base. It's not so much that the home is, and we do need a bigger home. The problem is that these county assessors give incentives for industry and business, and at the same time put that on the homeowner. And it should be the other way around. If you're going to build your warehouse, which is going to bring traffic, pollution, truck noise, and all of this, pay for it. I don't have a problem with the warehouses being there. I have a problem that they're there at my expense.
I'm paying for it, right?
Right. And I don't get any benefit out of it. In fact, it makes more pollution, more noise, more traffic. That's a problem.
So, but it's funny you mentioned Harvey. Harvey was Maywood before Maywood.
Yes, it was.
My wife Damaris grew up in Harvey. Harvey, the Dales lived in Harvey.
Yes.
There's some actors from Chicago back in the day, because Harvey was one of the first areas where they integrated.
Yes, you're right.
So Harvey was like the Huxtables back in the day, like 40, at least a good 40, 50 years ago.
Maywood has always had a Black population. My grandparents, my grandfather in particular, and his sister in particular came from Alabama straight to Maywood because Maywood had industry. They had American Can, one of the largest canning places, and it hired lots of Black people, a lot of old Black money in Maywood. And then I'm connected to several families because my grandparents were there so early and knew everybody. I'm connected to several named families. In fact, an uncle of mine is the pastor, a former pastor of Second Baptist Church in Maywood.
But just on every you don't want to move back because basically Cook County?
It's crooked Cook County. That's the way I label it. Until something changes with Cook County and until
maybe Shawn Mitchell runs for Cook County assessor. And
no, I don't want that job. And I know President Preckwinkle. She's a nice lady.
That's Tony Preckwinkle. That's what I thought.
She's nice, but she made some decisions that I disagree with. I know some of my liberal friends may be listening to this, gonna get upset. I don't believe in soda taxes. I don't believe that. Because what did the soda tax do? It made now people say, "Oh, we're gonna stop them from drinking soda." No, what you did was you said, in order to get the bargain price of $1.75 for a 4 liter, you have to buy 4, or it's $3.99 per 4 liters. So what do people do? They buy 4. They're drinking more soda. The tax didn't stop them from drinking soda, like you said. The tax doesn't stop the creation of plastic, like you said. All the tax did was change the way people buy soda. Instead of buying 1 2-liter, they're buying 4 for the price. And now, instead of having 1 2-liter thrown out for recycle, there's 4. So everything you said it was going to do, it
had the opposite effect.
So no, and just other things that looking. Like I said, I've met her several times. She's a wonderful lady. She's done some wonderful things, but I'm not sure. And I'm watching Mayor Johnson. I mean, he hasn't done the greatest job. I watch him. Anybody that's calling the president of the Chicago Bears, President Warren, and you're the mayor, dude, stop being starstruck. He goes to every event like the mayor should, but he's just, maybe the political spotlight is a little too big for him, and he thinks he's a celebrity as opposed to mayor of Chicago.
That's your boy.
We'll see how that plays out.
Y'all coach him up. I know that's Austin. Austin ain't Maywood. Folks moved to Maywood to get away from Austin.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know nothing about the brother. I was cheering for. It's the same thing as Lori Lightfoot. When she became mayor, I cheered for her, but when she started doing things that just didn't make sense, I went after her.
She wasn't from Chicago at all.
No. And speaking of her, they hired her in Dalton to oversee what was going on in Dalton.
Yes, I did see that.
And that's going to be real interesting how that plays out.
Because your girl in Dalton, she is like Trump in drag. She just like, I don't give a damn.
Them yo people, that's a South Sider. That's yo people. All right,
well, Mayor Johnson, that's your, they say, hey, get your boy.
Mayor Johnson, if you're watching this show, I will sit down and advise you. I got some of the best political advice I could possibly give you. You know,
true.
they wanted me to run for mayor of Chicago. There's no way I want the job, but I will be an advisor to the mayor. And I will donate half of my salary if you hire me to be your advisor.
Why wouldn't you take the job? Because I mean, I'm biased because we family, but you would, because at the end of the day,
at this point in my life.
Let me tell everybody why I'm saying this. All jokes aside, because at the end of the day, one thing I know about Shawn, and I'm not just saying this because we family and we love each other, but part of our bond is, at the end of the day, Shawn would take a position like that, not for fame, not for fortune, not for people patting you on the back and, you know, kissing your ass. It was because you truly would want to use that power for the community and for the culture and for the folks that had the least, not the most, which is probably why you say that, because the folks with money would get mad and you would be like, y'all can kiss my ass. Y'all always, you know, stop with, you know, with the grift and the hustle, you know, help the people that need help. And unfortunately, that's, you know, that's a whole nother conversation all the way back to the original Daily, the Daddy Daily, then the Son Daily.
Let me say this. Before 45, I would have probably ran for political office. After 45, and the fact that all boundaries are gone, the blatant disrespect, there's just certain parts of me. At my core, I'm an activist, and when you play in the political arena, you have to compromise some of that being an activist. Yes. It's hard to get money to get elected when you take strong positions, and see, that's for me where the rub becomes. You know, I found myself, even when I was involved in the Democratic Party in South Carolina, sometimes having to put my principles to the side to go along to get along. And that just is not for me. No. I wouldn't mind being a political advisor to somebody, because at the end of the day, it's their decision. I'm just going to give you pure, unadulterated advice. The only place that I would be mayor of is the town I grew up in, and Maywood. We've got a great, no, not Maywood, Broadview. Okay. I know everybody hears us talk about Maywood because Maywood is the bigger city. They're both right there connected. Okay. And I have family in the bulk of my family, but I grew up in Broadview.
Okay, I didn't know that. All the time I thought you actually grew up in Maywood.
Broadview is a bedroom community. It's about 15,000 people. We have a Black sister that's the mayor there. She's doing an awesome job, but that's the only mayor job. And I would consider maybe a position in the state Senate from that area, but the people involved in the state Senate in that area, I've been knowing those families since I was a kid, and the people who are already holding those positions are doing an excellent job. So that is something. Now, let me say this. I don't know, 10 years from now, after a great legal career, would I run for governor of Illinois? That's a different conversation.
I like that. There you go.
I've always wanted to be governor of Illinois because I've liked people like, and I know he's a Republican back in the day, but he's a normal Republican. I liked Governor Edgar when I was growing up.
I remember him.
And he was always a good, and then I liked, why am I tripping? But the Secretary of State was one of my favorite people. I got to meet him. He had the tumblers.
Oh, you talking about Roland Burrs?
Yeah, Roland Burrs.
My man.
He's just, you know, Illinois state government, those state officers outside of Rauner shitting on everything when he was in charge. Excuse me, Mama Jones. I know you're watching, but she knows I'm telling the truth.
She know you telling the truth.
Our governors have always been, even if they're Republican, they're centrist. You know, they do what's best for Illinois. And Illinois right now, after they cleaned up the mess and they got rid of some of the Republican mess, is on the uptrend. Don't be surprised if Pritzker, the next presidential cycle, throws his hat in
it's
the
not even
arena.
a secret.
Yeah,
He's
coming for
but
it.
Gavin Newsom is so thirsty. That's a whole different.
Well, let me say this: I'm a man, and I'm not.
But he's thirsty.
I know it's Pride Month, and I'm a straight man, but Gavin Newsom is a handsome man. You know what I'm saying? He kind of puts me in the mind of when Barack. He has that aura that says.
But it's a huge difference between Barack. He is the anti-Barack because his ass is thirsty as a starving man in a desert.
Yeah. I want Kamala, should, Biden, like I expect him to win, I want Kamala to get a fair, consistent shot at becoming president. She's growing. I think she's capable.
No doubt.
I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a Kamala Newsom ticket or a Kamala Pritzker ticket.
Well, I was just about to ask you though. Do you think that Newsom? Well, he's so thirsty, he probably would settle. But if he was my VP and I'm Kamala, I'm gonna make sure that I got my own private Secret Service to keep an eye on his ass. Because
Gavin Newsom is. I think he's a smart politician. So my thinking is this: if he didn't get the vice president, he'd be in a cabinet position, something. I think another dark horse you got to consider is Buttigieg. He's there. He's been in the cabinet. He's going to probably be in the upcoming cabinet. It wouldn't be surprised if he's our vice presidential candidate.
I'm gonna be honest with you before I let you get out of here. I'm throwing my hat in the ring for this brother because he is brilliant, and just look at the work he's doing in Maryland. And I love Vice President Harris, but my man Westmore, I would vote for him over all of them.
The Democrats have a deep bench.
Yeah.
And, it could get real interesting after this.
What's your take on Westmore?
I like the brother. I think he's done a good job. I tend to, and I know people not expecting this from me, I tend to like the strategy of if you have a sitting vice president coming for the next election cycle, that sitting vice president, and outside, unless they're just really messed up, should have the free reign because they put in 8 years of work.
Oh, listen, I would vote for. I mean, look, I'm going to vote for Kamala, but honestly, personally, Westmore is just really. Westmore is a different cat. He's not Obama. He's Westmore, but he's got that same, maybe even more so than Barack.
He'll have his shot again. Sometimes the best power for people like that is the Senate. Always remember.
Yes, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Always remember the president and the vice president don't have the power. It's the Congress. Sometimes it's better.
The Senate has effed up. I had to clean myself because I know my mother's watching, and we just lost the signal. But Shawn may have timed out. So okay, listen. It's Friday, Juneteenth week, so we had a different kind of vibe of conversation. Thanks to everybody sticking around and watching the show. Hey, Samara. So one of my listeners. And she is watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Type in my chat room. It was some, Shakira, because the print is so small. Sierra. Hey, Sierra. The print's so small. So Sierra Francis is one of my listeners on my radio show, Star 99.7. And she won a contest. I said, check out the show. You'll love it. And she's watching. And I told her I was going to shout her out. Hey, Sierra. Yes, you did. So shout out to you wherever you are. Shout out to your crew, if you're home, your family, if you're in your hair salon. Shout out to you and your stylist. If you're in one of the Black Greeks, you're in a sorority. Shout out to your sorority sisters. Just shout out to you. Thank you, along with everybody else that's watching. And thanks to my man, Shawn Mitchell. Hey, listen, everybody. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. You, especially you, God, most of all. Thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show live. Okay, I'm just reading. I am joining that. I'll definitely. Okay. Oh, you enjoyed the conversation? Great. All right. Then I gotta talk to you two. I need that font a little bigger because I'm standing way back here. I had to, when to see it, and I got good eyes. But anyway, so thank you, Sierra, and everybody else. Of course, my mom, everybody else watching. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Happy Juneteenth week. Enjoy your Juneteenth celebration. Be safe. Keep your head on a swivel. I saw there was another mass shooting somewhere in America. I can't remember because I just didn't really want that energy. But prayers to the families of those that lost their life and those who were shot and wounded. We're living in some crazy times, so just be alert. It's some crazy folks out here, and it's some crazy white nationalists. So just keep your head on a swivel, and I'm sure all the promoters just make sure that you got ample security. But really, it doesn't matter. You could be going into a supermarket or anywhere. You could be going to Walmart, Whole Foods, Home Depot, Lowe's, anywhere. Heck, you could be going to church. We kicked off the week on Monday, June 17th, 9 years ago. The Mother Emanuel nine beautiful souls who were in Bible study invited a young man who was a white nationalist, and he sat there and prayed with them for an hour and read scripture. And when Bible study was over, they stood and they prayed with him and for him. And his thank you to those beautiful souls that he killed 9 of them. And he let a couple live, and he told them that I'm not going to kill you because I want you to tell the world what I did. So it's, man, the enemy is busy. He is busy, and he don't sleep. So anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Shout out to CM Transportation, CM like Mary Transportation. If your company, if your business needs a transportation company, dependable, reliable, and on time, CM like Mary, CM Transportation LLC.net, CM Transportation LLC.net, or you can call. They're based here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro, but they are nationwide. They do business nationwide. 843 area code 606 2702. 843 area code 606 2702. Mark Hill Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. Check him out on IG, on Instagram. Kel be cutting up. He is the CEO of Designer Cuts, KELBECUTTINUP on IG, Instagram. Allie Jones and Bruce Gage, the official wardrobe consultants and stylists for the Geno Jones Show. Allie Jones and the Lexi Jones Collection, fashion designer. Check her out on IG, on Instagram, LX.NCL underscore. That little dash in the back. LX.NCL underscore. Bruce Gage, Mario Uomo, Miglio D Mario Uomo, MIGLIODIMARIOUOMO, MIGLIODIMARIOUOMO. Flyball of the store. It is the only officially licensed retailer and apparel. They have the gear, the officially licensed Negro League baseball gear. They got it all. As a matter of fact, the Negro Baseball League Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, you'll see the Flyball of the store. I had the sweater on the other day. FLYBALLTHESTORE. Look, on my way out the door, I just want to bring him back. Bring him back on camera. Once again, shout out to Shawn Mitchell, who is pinch hitting for Keela Carson. Shawn is part of the Geno Jones Show family, a regular. He is our legal expert, and you see the handsome face right there. I didn't know if he's going to jump back on. Thank you, Shawn, for coming on, man. I'll hit you after the show and let you get back to your family. Love your family. Appreciate you. I love each and every one of you all. Thank you. Everybody watching me live, spread the word. I have a goal, 1,000 new subscribers in the next 60 days, so I will qualify to get, I need to get myself on camera. There you go. I'm running my mouth and hit the wrong button. So I'm back on camera now. Anyway, so spread the word. Tell everybody you know. All the influencers out there, you got an influencer, or maybe you just got a girlfriend that just run off at the mouth, got diarrhea of the mouth and like to tell everything. Well, tell her to tell everybody to subscribe to the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. And subscribe and share. Screen grab, rip the video, share some of the conversation. So we had a hot conversation. Every monologue is fire. Subscribe, share, and tell everybody to subscribe, share, screen grab, like, and binge watch all my back episodes. Make it a Geno Jones Juneteenth weekend binge watch weekend. Thank you for watching, everybody. I love everybody. I will see you in the next live edition of the Geno Jones Show. It's going to be Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, go back and binge watch any of this episode you missed and binge watch all my back episodes this week and all my back episodes with all my big celebrity guests, from Ronald Isley to Lettucey to Kenny Lattimore to Howard Hewitt and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and new artists like my man October London, the brother that sounds just like Marvin Gaye, Roy Chip Anthony, Lenny Williams, new school, old school, Melvin Riley, lead singer for Ready for the World, so many. So if you like old school, I got old school artists, legends like Mr. Big Ronald Isley. I got new school artists like October London and Roy Chip Anthony. All that right here on the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. Like I said, make it a binge watch weekend right here on the Geno Jones channel. See you Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Holla.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.